So, welcome everybody to episode 3 in season 4 of the Immersive Theatre of Learning, the place where the magic of theatre meets the power of learning. And today we have two guests here. We have Adis and Aliona, two people on both sides of the Atlantic. So, Adis, you're in Amsterdam right now. You're based in Amsterdam, and Aliona, you're based in Iowa. And Adis, it's the first time you're on this program and as a speaker, as a guest. Aliona, I think you have been to almost all the sessions so far, so I'm very happy to have you with us, and a few more people are joining. So the Immersive Theatre of Learning started a couple of years ago, so it's season 4. It's, for those of you who are new, it's loosely based on a book that I published in 2024 called The Immersive Theatre of Learning. But the idea is not to promote the book, but to invite speakers and guests who work in the field of learning and to do something interesting, exciting, or just very powerful and effective. And recently, we picked up the habit of inviting two people who don't know each other, and that also creates a little bit of a of synergy and of serendipity in the room. And I have the tendency to always ask a question that is not so easy as a warmer. And my question is: we're going to talk about life and the experience of life, and something like a thread through the whole series was experience design. Who in this room sees themselves as an experience designer? Okay. And so one of the questions we're going to tackle today is, if you could design your own life, what would that be like? But I would like to ask the question the other way around. Think back to the life you've had so far and think of one moment that was so powerful, so rich, that it could almost have been designed. Something that was so powerful that you would almost pay admission for it. Something you experienced and something you didn't pay for. So going to an immersive experience doesn't count. I think that question needs a little bit of reflection. And anybody who would like to share, just open your mic and kick it off. Ollie has an idea. Would you like to share it in the chat only, or would you like to talk about it, Ollie? Hello.
Yeah, I can talk. It was the first time that I was having to do that, cleaning another person than myself.
Ah,
And it was my dad. And it was very powerful because it's a full circle. He did that probably 45, 48 years ago.
mm,
And now it's my turn.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Who would like to? So it could be anything. Could be anything. Doesn't have to be the most powerful moment in your life, but just a powerful moment. B.
This really was an instance, but it was an instance of such great clarity that it could have been curated for me. I was online. I struggle with introversion and some things. And I was online. I'm living in Germany. I should let you guys know that too. And I was online and I saw this sign that said, "Why are you trying to fit in when you were born to stand out?" And it was like, and it just resonated in my bones. And I've been talking about that moment in my life to just anyone who will hear.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a powerful question. That's a powerful question. Maybe can I steal this question for one of the next sessions? Wonderful. Okay, so nobody will be put on the spot. So if you have no idea, or if you don't want to share, you don't have to. But I think we'll probably have 2 or 3 more shares. Yes, Carolyn, thank you.
Well, mine relates to living outside of my culture. It was actually the second time, but the first time I was more integrated into the culture. I became so lonely at one point that I thought I was going to suffocate. The feeling of weight on my chest. And I can't even believe I did this, but I went out of where I was living, out of the apartment, and it was dark. I went to a park I knew, and there was a hole in a tree. I knew the tree, and sometimes little kids would go in the hole, and I went into the hole to feel, I guess, comforted or something. Since then, I've had that suffocating feeling, and I just know that I need to move and get where I'm with someone.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Aliona, yes.
I can think of many. Well, when people started sharing, I immediately thought of different moments in my life, but there is one particular one that I would like to share. I lived in Germany and I worked as an interpreter for Russian-speaking people. And usually I was invited to to translate for refugees, doctors, or social services, and events not events, or on occasions like that. But once there was an event on board of a ship, a Krusenstern ship that arrived from Russia, and it was interpreting for the crew and a local German school. It was Krusenstern School. They had an event, like award giving on board of that ship. So I was interpreting at that event. And when I think about it, it doesn't feel like it was me. There was a moment when I felt scared, but still did it. And this situation, this whole thing reminds me of how brave I can be, and how I can do something even if I feel I'm not competent enough, I'm not good enough. It's like, if I don't do that, somebody else may do it for me, but then it won't be my life and my experience.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful conclusion you're making there. And yes, probably this series and the book I wrote and everything wouldn't exist if I had doubts about this. Yes, so thank you very much. And Mariam, let's come to you.
Yes, there is a very special life experience I have that it's quite deep for me, and it's like a very vivid picture that no matter how far ago it actually happened, I still have that very clear, vivid picture. And there was a period of time that my dad, excuse me, because of a certain sickness, lost his ability to speak. And when I traveled back home, because I live in Sweden and I'm Iranian, we had reading times at nights where I would read to him some few pages of his favorite book, and he couldn't really say anything, but with his looking at his eyes would give me a deep way of connection. It's hard to describe it, but it was as if we were talking to each other, even though I was reading and he was listening. And in some certain parts of the story, I would look at him, and the eye contact and the connection that we have always had was just so valuable to me. And it was just so special that it's one of the very, very significant experiences I have in my life that is very, very valuable to me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this, Mariam. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful shares. And as I said, not everybody has to share. If anybody has a beautiful moment to share, please raise your hand, your virtual or your real hand. It reminds me of a book which probably some of you know, The Power of Moments by the brothers Heath, I think. It's a great book about not really experience design, but it's about that life is actually a collection of moments, right? So and so we also think back to these moments, and maybe they change a little bit in our memories, right? So we glorify them sometimes, or we take out the boring parts, but we think back of our lives as stories. But today we're going to talk about our future lives as a story. And so I would like to start with Adis. And so we met in Amsterdam about 2 years ago or something, a year and a half ago, at an event organized by the L&D Shakers, and it was called non-conference, a bit like an unconference. And you told me about a project to open or to start Designing Your Life, which is another powerful book, right, that some of you may know, remind me of the authors, Burnett and
Evans.
And Evans, yes. And to take it to the Netherlands. So Adis, can you tell us a few things about yourself, maybe your own life journey, and how you had the idea of starting Designing Your Life, and where do you stand now with Designing Your Life?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of questions. So thank you so much for inviting me. Hi, everyone. So I see we are all from different places. And indeed, so when did I decide to do Designing Your Life? I came across the book, Designing Your Life, the book, in 2016. So it was right after the publication. I was pregnant with my daughter, Zoe, the first one. And I knew that my life was to change because I was a very active professional traveling the world, and I was about to be a mother. And so I had this big question about how am I going to design my life after that? And we had that dream of being a family, but we didn't really talk about it. I didn't know how to think of the future. So I was at the table with a lot of women in a dinner, and we were talking, and they said, oh, you should definitely read this new book called Designing Your Life. And I'm like, okay. So I read it, and the original version is here in one of my shelves. And you know, like any book, you read the first chapter, beautiful, and then you leave it, and then you do a second chapter, and then you read and you say, yeah, I'll do the exercise later. And then you finally, towards the end, and at the end of the book, they say, well, super simple. If you really want to take action about life design, just meet 3 or 4 friends and go through all the exercise and share. Oh, easy. I have so many friends. I will just share the book. We will do the exercise together. So as I was talking to some friends, leaders, they were going to this all really expensive Women in Leadership, which is about personal development, very close to Designing Your Life. And I was like, oh, let's do it. So we would have one session, and then poof, they wouldn't follow up. So then I started giving the book to everybody. They preferred to complain than actually taking action. So poof, also not happening. So I was like, well, you know, I can only force one person to do this with me, and that's going to be my husband. So I forced my husband into doing the exercise. So I could read into his mind. What is it he wants? What is his dream? How does he want to design his life? So a year plus later, my daughter was 10 months, and I booked this beautiful trip to Bali, and we have a nanny in the morning. And I go to yoga, and he's forced to do his homework. And then we debrief. And that was my first introduction of my own personal retreat with my husband. And that was beautiful because it really got us somewhere new. And suddenly being motherhood was not like, oh, I have to follow the rules and it's heavy and I have no support. We could really think of what is it we want and design the life as a couple. And as we were growing as parents, we had a lot of parents asking, but how do you make this happen? Like, how do you design your life? And I couldn't really explain. I was like, well, I don't know, like I pay for a nanny or I don't know. I couldn't explain properly how do I design my life. And so years later, I decided to become an entrepreneur and I had several ideas. But a week before I started my incubator, I meet this woman. We have 7 things in common. And she tells me that she's done designing your life in China. I was like, oh my God, this is my dream. I'm dreaming about doing retreats for women and support them and get them for them to know the framework, etc. So I got that really seriously. It was supposed to be like a weekend project, one thing, and became so seriously that I created my company and made this my first and like main activity. So we became official partner in January of last year. We did workshops since 2 years already. And our next workshop is like next month. So we do it in Amsterdam, mainly with women, and we do retreats as well. And so yeah, I did it, and I obviously love the story. So I have a lot of people tell me like, how did you apply it? What's the story of people? Did you follow up on them? And we did. So just today we had an interview with Zuzka, who did the workshop in May of last year. Last week we interviewed someone who did it in January of last year. So we have stories of what did you bring with you if you look back. And I think designing your life is a beautiful tool. And in anything that is related to life design, sometimes I mainly work with people who are ready. They're ready to take the step. Not just like to complain, but really ready to invest and take the step. But there's no magic. In other words, it's not after 2 days that you become a billionaire, that your problems are gone. You just gain the courage and clarity to take step and believing in yourself. So if I go back to the conversation you had, you don't doubt, you just go for it. This is the concept. So in the first day, what we do is we define what's the challenge, what is stopping you. And most of the time, the reason that we're stuck is because we ask questions that have no solution. We call it wrong problem solving. So we try to find solutions that can have answers. And we go through a lot of process about finding what is it that is not matching. And the second day, we do my favorite day because it's about solving the problem. So about ideating, finding solution, deciding what you want to work on, and then go out there and prototype. And I'm really action oriented. So this is the second day. Finally, all of the crazy thing we did in day 1 seems to make sense in day 2. And then you're in the wild, in the real life to go and try your things. So when Bern invited me, he said, can you do something that you can test, try, experiment, something so easy that can change the way you do things? So I brought with you, there are many exercises we do, and one exercise we do is about balance. And balance, I would love to know and hear, what is your definition of balance? So I would like to open the mic for like a minute, and you can either write in the chat or open your mic. And what is this keyword that I hear everywhere, balance? What does it mean to you? I know you heard of the word balance before. So.
Well, Adis, I would say for me, I always think we're hurling through space and spinning. So there is really no balance. It's always about balancing. So balance for me is an active verb, and it means that you're always balancing.
Yeah. Aliona?
I would support what B just said, because you ask what's balance, and I also think like there is no outside balance, I would say. So to me, balance ideally would be feeling content with how things are. Because the more I think about balance, I think if you balance everything, you're not good at any particular things. When you start doing something, like you start focusing on one thing, there is no balance. So to me, like inner feeling of being content and happy.
Thank you for sharing. So I see two hands. What about Diana? You were.
Hello. So for me, balance would be permanent movement, a little bit as you just said before, like time, feeling the real moment now and living the present moment, because there's not such a thing as balance. There's permanent movement that, like, I feel like when you are making the water over the waves, and you want to make stay over the waves and not fall down, and try to dream you're floating, but to be able to float permanently, you have to be moving. You have to be moving. If you stay still, but you're going to go down. So it's like moving, 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 doing something, passing into action as well. The time is the passing of time, not leaving it behind, the hand holding it in the hands, something like that.
Thank you, Diana. Mariam?
For me, I see life in general, if I use a metaphor, I see it as a cupboard with drawers. And each drawer can represent one aspect of life. It can be one drawer for your job, one is family, one is friends, social life, health is one drawer, like hobbies, your goal. So for me, balance is if there is something in all of my drawers. If one drawer is too full and one is very empty, the balance of life has got affected for me in a not very positive way. So if I feel like all the drawers have something in them, they're not overloaded or they're not completely empty, then to me, that is balance.
I love it. Thank you so much. And you are so warm of the definition of designing your life. And Bernd, yes.
Yes, I love the metaphors, and I would like to add another metaphor to this. But it's actually an experience that somebody did, and I witnessed it, or I was part of it. Actually, we had 4 glasses, empty glasses, in front of us, and a little decanter with water, and we had to decide on 4 aspects of our life, and there was a limited, and then how much time and how much energy we spent on each of these things. And at some stage, of course, there was no more water. So we couldn't fill any of the glasses. And so we started pouring things from one glass into the other. So that was a powerful exercise to make us realize that our energy and our time is limited, but we still have to make something with the things we have, right? So for me, that was an eye-opener for balance.
Beautiful. So actually, I love everything that's been said, and you get closer to our definition or reframing of the word balance. I will try to share my screen here so you get a visual. So usually when we come to the balance, we have this picture that, or the water, that if you pour too much water in one glass, then you're empty on the other. In designing your life is not exactly like that. There's not such thing as limited water, though there's in reality a limited number of hours of energy. That's correct. But we want to rephrase that. And so I like the movement of B when we were talking. Oh, sorry. Like I have a bug here. Voila. So when we were talking about balance, it was about the movement. And the idea is that you can add several layers, but as long as it's there and you move right or left and it's not falling, we're good. So our objective is not to run out of water or to run doing too much of something and then the other is breaking or falling down. And in today's society, when we say we're really out of balance, we may think of burnout, meaning you have used all your energy, you had multiple signs from your body saying stops, and you have listened to none because your mind is taking over and your body is just suffering. And at some point, if you do too much of that, your mind can do whatever they want, but the body will stop. So obviously, we want as much energy, joy, and in our lives, and that's what I seek for. I seek for high energy. So we do also other work on energy management, but talking about balance. And then we go back to our drawers, and we look at life in 4 different, coming back to the drawer, on 4 elements. And the first element is love, because what is life if you don't have friendship, people to talk to? For example, this space, maybe you recognize with people you like, your neighbors when you say hello and you smile, whatever this love is. So it doesn't mean a lover or being on Tinder, it's really the connection. So that's the love. I'm the love. The second one is about sports or health. So am I healthy? So health is your own definition of what health is. Either is to do movement, have your physical aptitude, have the energy. This is about your health. So what are you eating, etc. Then there's another element called work. And work is something we know, most of us know a lot and really well. It's something you have to do. However, work, for example, if you don't have a paycheck, you don't go and check in to the company. Work can be as a housewife. Well, you have to take the trash and take care of the kids. All of this is work. It's something you have to do. And what is it something you don't have to do? It's the fun part. So the fun part is something you don't care about the outcome. You do it because you love it. You do it because it brings you joy. And this is the difference between, for example, if you do sports and that brings you fun and joy, and that's like the joy element, or you are doing sports to perform and be the number one. The same activity can be either in work or in fun, depending on what's your definition. So typically, if someone says, well, my way of enjoying is to look at the trees or watch birds, this is typically something without an outcome in mind. Bernd, something unclear?
No, but a question I asked myself, and maybe it's also a question for the others. By the way, there are some great comments I need to read out from the chat as well about balance in a moment. Haley said, for me, balancing is about grounding when I feel as though I'm moving away from myself. Balancing is finding ground and breathing, being calm. And Carolyn says, going with the flow with intention. Cindy says, balance is maybe the ability to find joy in being out of balance. So beautiful. My question was, can these 4 fields also overlap? For me, for example, I like to work in a playful way. And I don't even use the word work for my work. Work for me is doing the accounts or paperwork and things like that, but not
Exactly.
the actual work I do. So are there overlaps? And also I love, the connection I have with people in my work. So there's also, I would miss
Exactly.
the word love in there. Is there an overlap?
100%. That's why in our reframing of balance, it doesn't mean, for example, someone who's at work all day long, every day of the year can be balanced because maybe they find great joy in connection. Maybe they seek meaning. Maybe they have a lot of joy. Maybe they also like manage to be healthy in the way that they do their work because they have to walk, and then they're healthy and they use their body and they're not sitting in the chair all day. So absolutely 100%. And that's exactly the purpose, because when you rephrase it, you don't have to separate, like, this is time for work, this is time for joy, that's time for relationship. You can totally intertwine, and that's why you're not limited. And so now I will have an exercise for you, and it's an assessment, a self-assessment. Are you ready to do the work?
That's usually the moment when the first people leave the meeting and say, I have an urgent phone call, but everybody's still here. So that's a great sign.
So let's do some our one exercise together, which is the self-assessment. I will show you what it is, and you can either write 1 to 10 or write a line or whatever you want. So I will share my screen and I will explain what the very simple exercise is. This is called my dashboard. And you can call it speed or how much fuel do you have in your tank of work, play, love, health. And just like Bernd said, maybe your work is full, your play is full, your love is full, everything is full, great. The purpose is not to have a 10 out of 10 or be full on everything, is to make sure that you're not empty on something and therefore you're out of balance. So, and usually work, there's an element maybe of money, but that's just the dashboard. And we look at it this way. Then you can include whatever you want. So I would like you to define how full you are in those different parts. And I gave you an example of a dashboard. So for example, here, the relationship is so good. You feel like very sustained by your family or your husband, your kids. It's full. It's like what you do. You're full of love in your surroundings, but then the rest, maybe health wise, is not good. So it doesn't matter. I just give different examples of even my life, where sometimes like work is great, but then I have no play, or love, I spend too much time at work and I forget my loved ones, etc., etc. So this is just yes.
There is a question from Cindy in the chat. What does full mean? So, for example, for somebody who is retired, does that mean that work is at zero, is empty? I suppose no.
Not at all, because your work, it depends what your work now is. Usually we say people who are on a sabbatical or retired are even more busy than ever. Yeah. So the question, if now you're part of a foundation, or you are volunteering, or you spend time with your grandchildren, well, this could be your work nowadays. You define what work means to you. And I don't mean work in a bad way. I just mean of the things you have to do or you decide to do. And then I want you to put an arrow. So you put how full you are, and then you put an arrow. You put an arrow about where is the area that you'd like to work on more, and why is that, right? So to be very transparent with you, I'm super grateful, and we are #1 DYL in Europe, and we are relatively successful, but financially not good enough for where I am. So that's very being transparent with myself of where do I want to be in 2 years. I don't want to be financially here in 2 years, so I want to work on that. So that's my arrow. So I'll give you 2 minutes on the clock to just do that, and then we reconnect in 2 minutes. If you have any question, let me know.
So can I have more than one arrow?
One arrow, which is the one area that you'd like to work on.
Okay.
That you feel is probably the emptiest.
I will also keep the recording going, so if people watch this recording, they can do the exercise in real time.
And now, Bernd, if you can pull the first question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think everybody has voted, so we can end the polls. Shall I share the results? Here we go. Quite surprising. So love is the winner here. Oh, you're on mute, Adis.
Oh, thank you. I said I was surprised by the result, and I love it that you think of love, because this is so important. That's like every time decision, people. That's, I care about love so much. I'm filled with love because I have 2 young children who just hug me every day. So that's my filling cup every day. So what we're gonna do is, you have a different. I was very surprised because in all of my workshop, they're like professional, working a lot, and they always forget to play. And that's only the 3rd place. So we have a very different audience. So great to see that. So what we're going to do now is Bernd is going to invite you into a duo with someone for you to share what is it you want to work on and why. But we don't just finish here. I also want you to think of what is the one thing that you could do differently. So if you are to focus in that, what is the 1-2 things you can do differently as from we are Tuesday, so Wednesday, what is the one action I can take to bring more, if it's love, play, health, what is the one thing I can commit, so something very small that would fill this cup just a little bit more. So we will have 6 minutes, 3 minutes each to share your dashboard. So Bernd, I know we should be 8, so 4 groups.
Yeah. Do you want to be in a group as well?
Sure, yeah. So 5 groups. Or if you want to be in a group, you can as well. Whatever you want.
No, that's fine. So I open the rooms, and I think the timer is on 7 minutes, but it doesn't matter. So I see you in 6-7 minutes. And everybody is back, and everybody was interrupted, which in a way is a good sign because you were in the middle of meaningful conversations. And we were interrupted too, Adis and I. We were talking about our area or our field of focus. Right, Adis.
Yes, so welcome back. So first of all, I apologize, but even in my workshop, every time we do it for 20 minutes and people are like, no, it's too long. And then it's like, sorry, we have another 2 days. And they're like, no. So every exercise we do, there's such a magic happening when you share, and then you are with more people and you never have enough time. But the whole exercise that we do is called sprint. So you don't get to go deep, because I have some exercise that you could last 6 months if you go deep and deep and deep and deep. So everything we do is short, so you grasp what's the first thing that comes to mind, because I'm sure that's not the first time you thought about that. And so thank you for playing with us. And I was wondering if anyone had time to commit to one thing that they could do differently tomorrow to get closer to that goal. Yes, Cindy. Do you want to share something with us?
Yeah, my the thing that I voted on was love, and I have to send out about 100 emails, and so I thought tomorrow when I'm sending out emails, I could send them out with love.
Oh, so nice. Yeah. So nice. I was thinking about also you can leave a little voicemail and say why they're special to you. I had some of my creative team like sending me tailor-made, handmade cards so they think of us. I do that once a year. And so yeah, sometimes it's nice to just say it and take the time. And so whatever you do, and I see, Mariam, is that if you have something that is important to you, and it's nice to do it with a place of like feeling relaxed and it's nice and you have the time to do it. So sending 100 emails seems a bit like a heavy task. So I don't know if you can make it any lighter to get maybe 10 of those or 5 of those for tomorrow, and then you can do another 5 or in bunch, or, you know, I don't know, something that brings a little joy in the process.
My deadline is Friday.
So the pressure of executing, I must send the love 100. If not, I haven't achieved my goals. But I think love is it's much bigger. And I think maybe one idea is like, if you go and walk your dog or buy some bread, or just like if people are smiling at you, you can smile back or say hello. I was at a park last weekend, and we're not used to people talking to us in the city, but in the park, everyone is saying, good morning, hello, how are you? Like you just meet stranger all the time. And it's just such a different energy. And that's love to me, like just stranger smiling and saying hello. So thank you for sharing, Cindy. I love you too. Mariam.
Yes, I'm just gonna make my last comment, and then unfortunately, even though I'm really enjoying the session, but I need to leave, take care of this little guy here. And I just wanted to say, Aliona and I were talking about happiness and gratitude. And we were saying that how easy it is in this hectic everyday life to forget about the little things that we have, and we don't appreciate them, or we don't always remember to appreciate them. So for me, what I'm trying, I mean, this is my very little goal that I'm trying to achieve every day, is just to not necessarily writing, but just think about things that I am thankful for, that I have, no matter the circumstances that are surrounding me and that are not always necessarily positive. But think about the little things, like this one who's playing with my hair. Even small thing, just having this connection, you know, is something positive to think about. And I think when you start thinking about these positive things or writing them down, you will feel their impact on you gradually. That, oh, I have this, but I totally forgot, or I have achieved this in life that I barely remember. You know, it has become something normal, even though it is special somehow. So we were talking about how gratitude and happiness are very much connected, and it can contribute, being thankful can contribute to our happiness.
Yes, 200%. So Mariam, you're a life designer. I think I am a huge fan of gratitude. That has changed my life, and I have started to have less goals or less ambition or less pressure, because I'm like, I have already so much. Why is it I want more and more and more of these things? And I started to reviewing what was meaningful as I grew, because we change, we evolve, and therefore our goals of 10 years ago and our ambition of 10 years ago are different. And that's the whole purpose of life design, is to adjust what is it you need today and build for tomorrow, and not build on stories you told yourself, the stories of your parents, of your blah, 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 and reconnecting with what is it you need at this moment. So gratitude is like, there's a lot of studies done in that space. And I can guarantee you, if anyone is a bit down nowadays, do journaling gratitude for 30 days, not one day less. And then I guarantee you that you won't be in the same place in terms of feeling full, because there's so much to be grateful for. So thank you for sharing, Mariam, and thank you to your little one. Yes. And thank you so much for coming.
And thank you, Mariam, because I'm very grateful that you came, because you sent me a message earlier on. I cannot come because of my little one. And I said, bring them along. And
thanks for having. Sorry that I'm living in the middle of this wonderful set.
No problem. And we're very happy that you came. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful. And with that was my little experiment. And for you test what designing your life is, and then later on, if you have any question, happy to answer.
Thank you very much. I have one question for you, or it's more a comment, because what I like about designing your life, I mean, I never read the book from cover to cover, but I picked little things, and I really like the concept, because many people see life as something linear, right? So you have CVs, and you have, you do one thing after the other, you study, and then you pick up your first job, and then you change jobs and whatever. But designing your life is more about iteration, right? It's more about circles. It's more about trying things out in a playful way. And if it works, you continue. If it doesn't work, you choose something else. So, and it's about prototyping rather than making decisions. And I like that. It's really about trying things out in a controlled, safe space before you do them for real. And that's very close also to the idea I have in my book, which is about rehearsals for life. And so, yeah, thank you for bringing this into our series. I know you have a couple of more questions, but maybe we should, for the sake of time, we should give our participants the questions for sort of homework. What do you think, instead of a poll? So the second question was, you can think about it.
Yes, we covered it, but the third question is, it was more like for us to take a second to write down what is it we committed to do. Because it's so easy to go from one conversation to another conversation, and then you just like, that's it. And then life design is not that complicated, but it's following through when you have insight, because otherwise inside is just nothing. So if you could just take maybe 30 seconds to write down whatever you want in your calendar, your post-it, what is the one thing that you're going to do? Maybe you could even place it in your calendar. So you plan to work on that one thing and make it super accessible so that you progress. So there's movement, because everything is about movement. First movement, second movement, and before you know, you dance and you run. So, Oli, I see you. You are the person who writes a lot of things and then do nothing about it. So, what are you going to do differently? Maybe you can go into your wall and choose one thing. Sorry, we missed each other. But just from all of this idea, go back to what is the one thing that would change your, what is that's going to change one area of your life that can make a big difference. So it's not for you to answer now. It's just for you to, after this call, go back to your wall and pick one, and then share with us. Share with Bernd what's been the journey you've gone through.
Okay. So at least I will remember to make someone accountable, because even if it's in my calendar, I have the tendency to delete. But if I ask someone to send me a message, he will send me a message. And then I will commit to do that.
I have a variation for you, an idea I picked from somebody else. Why don't you send yourself a letter?
Ooh. If I don't put it somewhere in my notes where I never read. Maybe I will read in 47 years,
Or
when I decide finally.
Give it to a friend, give a letter to the friend and say, okay, decide when you're going to send it to me, when you're going to post it. And then it will arrive maybe a week later, maybe 3 weeks later.
Maybe 40 years later.
A spoiler, but in our workshop, we do exactly that.
Really?
We write letters to ourselves, but I'm the one sending them, so they don't know when it is. And then I had a participant, he's like, yeah, wait for the letter. I'm like, you don't know when the letter comes. Are you going to wait for 3 years? So the letter is for me to decide when you're going to get it. And it's just a reminder of like something so powerful that then it's reconnecting you to an experience. You know, we talk about immersive experience, but you do something, it's like, wow. And then you reconnect and you see, I have people telling me, oh my God, it's incredible. Because I didn't reflect back. And then I see all of the progress, all of the journey. And then it's a beautiful moment, right? Like a gift to yourself.
Wow, I didn't know that. Oh, that's great that you have that in there as well. Wonderful. Anyway, thank you so much, Adis, for sharing the magic of designing your life and your own magic here. And I would like to lead over to our second guest, Aliona. And so I see a little bit of a connection between the two subjects because Aliona is going to speak a little bit more about maybe building your life or designing your life in a totally different context, in a different cultural context. So from your own story, so you moved to the USA, but you're not from the USA originally. And so could you tell us a little bit about your own story and about what you wanted to share with us today?
Thank you, Bernd. And thank you for the opportunity. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Belarus. I never thought about leaving abroad until I went into college to study languages and intercultural communication and applied for a scholarship to go to Germany to improve my German. So I spent 5 months in Germany, went back, graduated. I loved my time in Germany so much that I applied for a scholarship again, this time for a master's program. By the time I had been married, my husband thought it was a great idea to move together. And while I was studying in Jena for my master's, he joined me and he started his PhD. So when he finished his PhD, and we spent about 5 years in Germany total, at one of the conferences, he met a guy who offered him a job in the United States. So here we are. It's been 11 years now for us in the United States. And I'm working as an intercultural trainer, helping families from abroad adjusting to the United States, but I don't see my job as teaching them what to do or what not to do. I feel like my goal in my programs is to make them feel confident about themselves, to be clear about their identity, if you want to say. So I make them think about their culture, about the culture they move to, but at the same time, being an intercultural trainer is not easy because after you've studied all the classical models of intercultural communication and cultural dimensions, and then you start working in real world, you realize it's not all that simple. So today I just want to share a few models that I use in my programs to provide a context for the questions that I will have in the end.
And before you do, I have a quick question for you. I think most people, I don't know, I'm making an assumption here, but most people don't really think about their identity so much, right? So it's not really a question. You don't get up in the morning, look into the mirror and say, what's my identity?
No.
Not consciously, unless you meet people like Adis who say you need to design your life, or unless you go to another culture and suddenly you realize you're different to everybody else. Or you meet a person, could be your husband, wife, whoever, and suddenly you realize, who am I really? And so, did you ask yourself the question before you moved abroad? Who am I?
No, not at all. And this is one thing that I think about, like, I wish I had a program like I provide when I moved to Germany, when I moved to the United States. So while working with other people, I keep learning myself and keep discovering things about myself all the time. So I'm here not as an expert. I'm more as a person to ask questions and to discuss with you. And it's interesting. I was intrigued by the work that Adis does, and Bernd, you shared that it was inspired by this book. So I went to check it out from the library. I started reading it, and I'm just taking quotes from there. And one of them I just want to share with you now. Here is the big truth. There are many versions of you, and they are all right. And living abroad, I think you would feel it more than anything. Like sometimes you're not one person and it's just not one identity, and oftentimes it's in your power to decide in which direction you want to go and which identity you would like to expose, which one to hide, which one you want to work on. So, and this is something I would like to discuss with you today. But before we do that, I wanted to ask two questions. First, who of you has an experience of having lived abroad for an extended period of life? Okay, it's like 6 out of 8. Who of you, or Diana and Ollie, a question to you. Have you had experience of interacting with other cultures on like in your work or while you traveled? Yeah.
Yes,
Ollie?
in my holidays when I went to Portugal, Germany, Italy, France, UK, and ex-Yugoslavia 30 years ago.
Okay, awesome. Diana, would you like to share? What's your experience with other cultures?
Yes, actually, I am Colombian. I live in France. I have lived in Italy. I lived in Egypt. I have worked abroad in different countries as well, in Filipinas.
Okay.
And one thing I want to add, in my own country, in Colombia, working with indigenous people was the biggest intercultural difference. Because even if they are in the same country, the culture is completely different.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, and
I have you on the list, Diana. We need to discuss this in more detail in one of the next episodes. Definitely, that's a great subject as well.
Sure.
And I didn't put it on my slideshow, but I wanted to ask, are you familiar with the classical intercultural models, like dimension models by Hofstede, Edward T. Hall, like that describe countries, like national cultures, I would say, in terms of different dimensions, masculine, feminine, high context, low context. So Adis, you're not familiar with this or?
Yeah, the context, like the culture map, but the feminine, masculine, not so much. So if you mean
the
like
concept of describing cultures in terms of dimension,
yeah.
one or other, and where the country is on the scale. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you're familiar with the context. Okay, and with that, I will share my slideshow. I will try to go through it quickly. And as I mentioned, I just want to provide the context for the questions that I will share in the end. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen. Screens. Well, that's interesting. Burn, I don't think I see my.
I think you should be able to share. I just shared as well.
Yes.
So just a green button there at the bottom.
Yes, I see the button, but here it is. Okay. Share.
Yes, it's coming up.
And I will start it.
Yeah.
So first of all, do you all see it now?
Yeah.
So first of all, I would like you to think about these two questions, and maybe one or two people can share their thoughts on those questions. So the first one would be, in what ways do you fit or are different from the norm of your home culture? So it's about your identity. And the second one, if you can think of a person who you don't know very well from your host culture, or if you travel, just a person you met there, who is similar or different from their cultural norm. So either of the questions. Sorry. Sure.
Can I share something?
Yes, please.
I really find the first one really interesting because when you think of your home culture, you are much more critical with the word culture because you think, yeah, all the people I know from my culture, they're all different. So we always tend to see our own culture as very diverse. And then we move to a new country and we tend to see everybody as very similar. And I think that's just a bias, right? So we have this great diversity in every culture. But there are, of course, cultural traits, but there are also so many people who differ from them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anybody else would like to share? Do you feel you're similar to your home culture norm or different from it?
I was thinking that I just did a speech about third culture. So when you're a mix of two cultures, then you create your own culture. And so for me already, I was like fit in and fit out, you know, like in and out. So by already being bicultural, so by birth in a way.
Mm. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I will move on because I would like to share more things with you and be mindful of the time. And actually, I don't have much to add on my next slide because this is another concept the first concept I wanted to share is obelisk distortion, introduced by Friedemann Schulz von Thun. And this is exactly what Bernd just mentioned. That's what he described. If we take a person, like an objective person, which is not possible, a neutral person who looks at different cultures, he would see the normal distribution within each culture. But if we look from inside of our group, so he describes it in terms of groups, like in-group, out-group. So if you're a member of an in-group, you see members of your group as more diverse, and you perceive yourself, you see your identity as much more different from other people than when you look at the out-group or at people from the other culture. You see them as more homogeneous than people in your group. And this is what I've experienced with many participants of my programs when I challenge them to answer those questions that I gave you. They have challenges describing in which ways they are common with their home country, but it's very easy to describe in which ways they're different. And when I ask them, how would you, not all of them, sometimes it happened, I asked them, okay, how would you describe your national culture? And these were people from Germany. They would say, we're Europeans. So they were more comfortable with identifying themselves as Europeans than Germans, for example. But it's very easy to describe other groups as Americans, Colombians, Indians, and so forth. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to share is generalization. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Craig Storty. Generalizations are only true in general. They may be accurate about a group, but not necessarily about any individual member of that group or for any particular set of circumstances. You will never meet a general person, in other words, and you will never be in a general situation. In the end, you have to deal with the person standing in front of you. And at this point, I already have a challenge. So I'm about to share all the cultural norms and dimensions with people, but this is a disclaimer I give them. So what we're going to talk about is helpful but it's not necessarily 100% true. And the next model, I was introduced to it pretty recently, so I understand the concept, but I really love the metaphor. So these classical models are the maps that may show you where countries are at, but it's not necessarily where people are at, because there is so much distribution within a culture. So this is a relatively new model, Topoi model, and they suggest that we use those models as compasses that show us direction. So not necessarily show us which place to go, but in which direction to move. Okay. The next thing I wanted to point out is when I have programs, I always tell my participants that I'm glad I can have this session with you, but I wish I could have this session with all the people you're gonna encounter, because it's a two-way street always. So after this program, it will be up to you to educate people around you, not necessarily directly, but it will be your work to show how cultures can be different and to work on your identity. And when we realize how we perceive our people around us, and we are able to overcome that obelisk distortion, you know, or biases or stereotyping, it helps us realize that people around us may think the same about us. It makes us understand why people in our host culture may reduce our personality to our passports, okay? But our passports are not our identities, and there is so much more to that. So here I just wanted to show your full luggage as a metaphor for what your identity may be. Not just your passport, not the language you speak, but so many more things.
Can I ask a question, Aliona?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that somebody moving to a country, of course, needs to adapt somehow in order to survive? But do you think also the country that receives and welcomes, it's a big word,
Can we hold off
needs...
with that question?
Okay, good.
because this is the last modal I wanted to share, and sorry for being so theory loaded, but this modal will bring us to my question that I wanted to discuss in the end.
Okay.
So this is the acculturation modal. How many of you are familiar with it? Could you raise your hands, please? I don't think I can see everybody. Or maybe who's not familiar? Do we have people who are not familiar with it? Okay, I see Haley in, I think that was it. But for Haley, I would describe it briefly. So when you move abroad, there are two dimensions, how much you value and maintain your native culture and how much you value and maintain your host culture. If you're able to do both, it leads to the integration. If you only focus on valuing and maintaining the host culture, here it leads to assimilation. That means that you adopt your host cultures, maybe language, ways of doing things, and try to fit in, to blend in. When you maintain and value your native culture, but don't value and maintain the host culture, it leads to separation. And you find your community of other expats or other immigrants, and you continue speaking your language and find your way around in this local community. And the fourth one is marginalization, as Barry describes it in his modal, which is basically losing your identity altogether. So this is the acculturation modal. And Bern, the question that you asked, I would like to ask everybody, but not directly, but as an exercise. And with this, I'm coming to my question. So I would like to challenge you to think about this modal on this previous slide: integration, assimilation, separation, marginalization, and which would be your preferred modal, or which you already adopted, or which you want to achieve. So I would like to challenge you to think about it. But this is the question that I would like to ask. Imagine it is 2 years from today and visualize your evolved life. Think about yourself in 2 years, but not as in the future. Pretend it's been 2 years now, okay? 2 years past this webinar. Think about what you've achieved. What's your circle? Who are your friends? Are they locals? Are they expats? Or is it a mixture? Do you speak your native language, or do you speak the language of the host country? What keeps you busy? And with that, you can think about areas that Adis shared. What keeps you busy? Are you busy with health, with work, love, having fun? And how do people see you? Is it aligned with your true identity? Do they see you the way you would like to be seen? Okay, so Bernd, what do you think? And we have about like 10 minutes left until the end of the webinar. Should we just open it up for discussion? If
I think so.
anybody has
Maybe we should leave
something to share.
a minute of silence so that everybody can
Okay.
think, and then just open it up, because then whoever wants to share can share.
Okay.
It's a great question, by the way. Okay. Shall we open it up?
Sure. And I already see that Carolyn put some answers in chat, but if you'd like to share in the forum. And also, Haley, I'm just saying that you commented in the chat as well on how you're different, or feel similar to the culture where you live. Thank you. Carolyn, would you like to share your thoughts, or do you want me to read from the chat?
Oh, I can share them. I love this, Aliona. It's such a good way to have people reflecting. The issue of language can be fascinating because you become a different person in each language. And sometimes you like the person you are in the other language than the person you are in your own language when you're in a different country. And I guess I took with reflection, true identity. I think it's so flowy and shifting. And being aware of that is the important part.
After you put that comment, I realized true identity is probably so vague and so not true because, yeah, true, not true. It's more like, yes, with how you want to be seen, and this does change indeed all the time.
I think B, you raised your hand earlier on. Was it about this one or about something else? No. Okay, sorry.
Would anybody else like to share your thoughts and about how you see your futures?
I really like your question because it's so spot on. And I will tell you, when I joined the Netherlands, I started speaking Dutch and I took some courses and I could speak in the street. And then somehow I married a non-Dutch person. And then I started to be very secluded and separated in the expat world bubble. So I'm really much in the separation section. And I think it's an identity problem. So first of all, like, I want to keep my culture for my kids, so I don't speak Dutch. Like most expats I know, they will speak Dutch and then their kids don't speak their language, so I have that. And then the other thing is like one part of me wants to stay, a part of me doesn't want to stay. So I think that's an internal struggle of what do I want. And so now it's been 16 years later, and like I ask my question, do I want to integrate or not? And so I'm thinking of this dilemma of who are you and who do you want to be, because there's a very much like a rejection from not the culture, the language, like the sound, you don't, yeah. So that's more like a deep thing, but that really is on top of my mind now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And really, I love that question. Do I want to integrate? I will go back to the previous slide. And when I show this to people, they always say, my goal is to integrate. But when we start talking what it is, they start realizing this is not the most comfortable option. Because your comfort zone may be in separation and being in your bubble, especially if you only move for 1 year or 2 years and you have to do your job. And many people who move like for military, they stay on their base and this is their most comfortable place. Or adaptation. Yes, when you adopt the language and your kids don't speak your native language anymore, that's not integration either. That's sorry, not adaptation, assimilation. That's assimilation. And that may be comfort zone for other people. So integration is not ideal. So this is the balance that we may not achieve. But I see, did I see that you raised your hand? And then Diana, or should we go straight to Diana?
I think it's Diana, right?
Okay.
Thank you. So I am impressed because I touch this subject all the time, but from a completely different perspective. And I am happy that you are showing me new elements to enrich my perception of this problematic, let's say, or situation or feeling. So it's impressive because even if I think about this personal thing all the time, your approach gives me new ideas. So questioning ourselves in the future as with all the elements is very important. And also Adis Sophie talking about language and how you perceive language. No, I think about it all the time, but it's nice to listen and to hear what you're saying about other languages as well. I feel super comfortable in English because it's a language I learned since I was a small kid, but it's not my mother tongue, which is Spanish. But then I don't feel that comfortable with French, and I am supposed to be integrated with in France at work and everything. So I'm kind of questioning with all this exercise, and I'm happy to be able to participate now, to question themselves. I don't have an answer. I am only in the questioning. So thank you.
And that's
Thank
already
you.
that's already a lot, right? To ask yourself that question, and it takes time, and
I think
it's not so easy.
the B
Yeah.
had something to share.
Yes, please be.
Okay, I'll share. You said B, right?
Yes, I did. And I think I saw your hand, but now it's gone again.
Yeah, I don't know how my hand got up. But anyway, I would say about this acculturation model, I love the way you explained it because you're right. At different stages and for different people, integration isn't always the absolute perfect solution. So I love the way you said it. Thanks for doing this, Aliona. And thanks, Adis. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Can I share a little story, and then maybe after that we can bring it to a close. Last Sunday, I mean, I moved to the place I live in. It's a small town, about a year ago, and so last Sunday, as a European citizen, I can vote in France for the mayor. And so there were elections last Sunday, and I went there at a time when it was pretty busy. And normally I don't like queues, but I got to talk to people, to locals, and I realized how few people I actually know in my village. Because for me, it's basically a place to sleep, or a place to, my home is here, and I go to the baker's, I go to the shop, but all my life is outside this village. And if I could make the time in 2 years from now, I would like to be a little bit more connected in the village, because I didn't feel in the conversations, and that kind of surprised me because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Nobody saw me as an alien. Nobody saw me as somebody, okay, you have a funny accent, where are you from? And what are you doing here? Nobody asked that question. And I thought, maybe there is an association I could join, or maybe there is something I could do here to get to know more locals. So that's the one thing I would like to do. Because for the moment, I don't really see myself as absolutely integrated. Sometimes I even see myself as marginal, because I feel as foreign in my home country as I do here. But I like living here, so it's not necessarily something I feel uncomfortable with. Aliona, what do you make of you said earlier on marginalization is having no identity, but I feel I have an identity, but not necessarily a French or a
Well,
German.
that's my Barry's model,
Yeah.
my take of his model, and I don't think you are part of that. So to me, it's more what Adis described, having a third culture, and
Yeah.
it's like a topic for a totally different discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Aliona, and
Yes,
thank you,
global
Adis.
identity, Haley.
And yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for a wonderful, small but wonderful audience and participants. We had great discussions, great activities as well, and great questions. And I think we saw the similarities as well. What I would like to think about is how we can steal from the designing your life concept and use it in the intercultural field. Not steal, but some of the activities, using it as interculturalists. And maybe you want to try some of them out, Aliona, because it's about developing your future self, right? But taking this extra dimension into consideration, which is culture and living in a new life context. So thank you very much for coming. There will be an episode in April. The date is not fixed yet, but it will be fixed pretty soon. And I can already say there will be a book launch in the next episode. And it will be about a detective. Probably Diana has a little idea what I'm going to talk about. And so that will be next month. And thank you so much for coming. Have a good evening, a good day, and I see you soon.